Claire, thanks very much for joining the Toast Talks podcast.
Thanks, Michael.
No problem. And I think I've tried to convince you to join, and then we kind of discussed it back and forward a few times. So I'm glad that we actually finally got to sit here. So I'm absolutely delighted to have you. I think it's fair to say that people around the Northwest would know you in some capacity. I think your presence on social media is quite evident. If anybody's on Instagram and they haven't seen you, I'd be pretty surprised by it.
All right.
There's, I think, one reel that I'll come to as well. Your record's 493,000. And whenever you look at them all together, it's well over 1 million.
Yeah.
Whenever you think of that, like, that must be incredible. It's
unbelievable.
You think of 1 million people.
Yeah. Have watched a reel or one of my TikToks, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even look at TikTok. Is TikTok?
So I think they get shared there as well. So the Instagram seems to have the more reach in those reels that have been done, but maybe things are moving a wee bit more towards TikTok. So
it's social media is incredible that way.
It's a minefield.
That you can, I know. But we'll come to how much of work that is. But as I said, so potentially for those that aren't Instagram or TikTok, so you're Claire Feeney, owner of Mortgage Solutions in Derry.
Yeah.
You're a mortgage broker and you provide life insurance, home insurance, and among a few other different things, but primarily mortgage broking.
Mortgages and the insurance to come along with it, basically, yeah.
Excellent. But before we go into the kind of the mortgage solution side, we'll go back to the beginning. So you're native of the city?
Sure am, yeah.
Born and raised
in Derry.
Did you ever leave?
Derry, girl, never left. No, a week holiday anywhere is probably enough for me, Michael. So no, a true Derry girl, never had any desire to venture anywhere else. And although now I would maybe be more interested to see other places and do things, but when I was younger I had no desire to leave. No.
It's funny because there's some people, go through school and then they're like, right, first opportunity, I'm getting it. And then there's other people like, do you know what? It's not so bad. And it's good to see kind of more recent times. There's people who maybe had moved away and are coming back now.
Yeah, and in the job that I'm in, I see a lot of that where people did move away and then they're looking to relocate back home. But for me, it was never popped up that I'd wanted to go anywhere. I suppose just
see, Derry's just too good for you.
I am a big fan.
So you went to school here. Were you a good student?
Ish.
Middling.
So middling. Good. I was a good girl, good student. Did I love school? Probably not. No, I didn't. And that's okay. I turned up and probably didn't do the best that I could do, but I did okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Got by.
I got by. Yeah.
And then left school at 16, was it?
Left school after my GCSEs. So probably could have gone back to school. Parents probably really wanted me to go back to school. Dad's a school teacher, so he definitely wanted me to go back to school.
Right, okay.
But at the same time, they knew that I had other ideas, and they always supported me, even though it might not have been what they wanted.
Yep.
They were always there to let me make the decisions, make the mistakes, do all those things. And yeah, so when I passed my GCSEs or done my GCSEs and got my results, I was already working part-time.
Right, okay.
I knew that come September, I did not want to be going back to school. So I'd looked at other options, and it was a similar idea to go into the tech. It was a company called Protocol Skills at the time. They were in Waterloo Place.
Okay.
Not even sure how I came across them, but I'm sure I contacted the tech or what, and it led that way. And I'd done a course on business and administration. So I was 16 going on to 17 that year. And as part of the course, you were put straight out into a placement. And I was placed under an estate agents.
Right.
I don't even think I knew what an estate agent was on that first day, if I'm totally honest. But I went and I had a very short interview at 16. Like, I didn't really have anything to say. I had no experience. I was fresh out of school. And that's basically where things started to develop. So I was doing a business administration course for a year to get NVQ, level 2, level 3. And obviously you weren't paid a lot of wages because it was a training course. But that's where it started. I stuck it out and I done that. So while friends were back at school doing their A-levels and planning for university, I was going to work basically, and then while I was in there, I was still doing the part-time job because I needed to earn some money as well. So yeah, that was basically where it started.
And then, so you worked for kind of a quite a long period of time. So you finished the MVQ, worked for a long period of time.
So I finished the MVQ and I stayed within the estate agents. I was there, so I joined there in 2002, and I was there until through the property boom, the property crash.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I went off at the beginning of 2010 on maternity leave, and I had my daughter.
Okay.
And so obviously I was off maternity leave, went back in 2011, and obviously things had changed. A lot had changed. The crash had happened. There was not a lot happening on the property market at that time. And I suppose there was I decided then that I wanted to move on and do something else.
Yeah.
But I thought I wanted to move on and do something else. So again, got an idea and thought I'm going to run with this. So I actually left at that point, and I started working in a supermarket.
Okay.
Because it was busy and it was I didn't want to sit in an office 9 to 5 with no work and things quiet, and it was very dooming. Do you know, I wanted to be motivated and doing something that I enjoyed, or at least something that was going to be a bit of a challenge. Things change when you become a mommy and you've got more priorities, and
Definitely.
So at that point, I was working in a supermarket. It lasted for about a year and a half, and then I thought, I want more. I want to earn more. I want to do more. Just felt that I could do more.
Yeah.
And then I decided that maybe my parents were right, and I probably should.
They hear this?
And I started to look at options of going actually to university.
Okay.
So back to the tech.
Right.
First point of call again, and because I didn't have my A-levels, I had to do something to bridge that gap.
Just before you go into that, how hard a decision was that? Whenever you go, right, I want to do this, and was that tough to kind of do?
It was tough, but I know I had a daughter to look after, and I wanted to earn more money, and I wanted to do things. So although it was a tough decision, I was excited.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And I was like,
but it's not an easy path.
I want to do it. It's not an easy path. And going back when I was at school, I always tried. I was never top of the class. Always I would have had to do a bit of work, to get.
But same as myself.
It didn't come naturally, and it was never
Yeah.
A stars. So I was a bit nervous about going into the tech, and then that process of going in, and maybe, well, at that stage I was not the age of people who were in the class, basically. So I was deemed a mature student. So the decision, back to that point, it was hard, but I knew I wanted to do something.
You knew it was sort of the greater good, and the ambition was to do more.
Yeah.
And then, so whenever you're saying that your parents were right, is that just...
Not, do you know what? Whenever we get on in the story, it's just been like everything. I'll never have any regrets now, basically, because I've gone and I've done it, and I've had the experience, and I loved it, and it was great. You always wonder if I had done it when I was 18, because at that time, like, I was going to work, my friends were going to Liverpool to university, should I have been away having the fun and that experience with them? So it's things, but at the same time, while they were at uni, I was learning the experiences of work life. So, you can't really do regrets, because whatever path you go on, I do believe that it's happened for a reason, and all the things that I've been through have got me to where I am now, so I don't have any regrets.
And that's like, had you maybe not have started an estate agent when
I wouldn't
you were 16,
be here today.
and that's, I suppose, the way that and you develop skills and you learn things and you kind of get good experience and stuff like that. And it's all transferable, really. And people kind of say, oh, but it's not directly related, but everything is.
Everything
really,
is. You learn something everywhere that you can take on with you, I suppose.
And then it comes down to your work ethic and stuff like that afterwards. But then, so you did a law and HR management degree after, so you must have
So I did 1 year in the tech to get the qualifications or the grades that you needed to get into uni. So I done a year in the tech, and then I done 3 years at McGee. So I done law and HR.
And you were working alongside?
I was working 2 part-time jobs as well as going to McGee.
And kids?
And Sarah at home.
Sarah.
So, and the thing about it was, that's still the key. Not that I'm working part-time jobs, but you're still working long hours, dealing with family, like everybody is. But at the time, I was coming into class, and you're sitting in a class with people who have been home and their mum's doing their washing at the weekend
yeah.
and sending them up their money for their rent and their week's meals or whatever. And that's okay too. It was just a bit different for me in that I was working maybe till 11 o'clock at night, getting up in the morning and to class, leaving at lunchtime to go do one job and then moving on to the next, working weekends. But again, I loved it, Michael. There was never a time then when I thought I don't want to do this. I was enjoying the process. I was enjoying the differences of going to McGee during the day, meeting your friends, doing your work, and then going on out to your part-time job. All those things, as I say, I've learned something in all those parts that I...
No, it's and as you say, you pick up stuff no matter what you're doing, really. Whether it's work-wise and then
even through all those times. So when I had left the estate agents after I had Sarah, I still would have been in touch, and that if there had been new developments or they needed holiday cover or they needed, somebody to step in. So I always would have been not still involved like every week or every month, but summer holidays always would have been on their Christmas Day. So you were always keeping that kind of link in that. Yeah. So I always still had an interest in the property side.
Jeez, you don't like much free time, do you?
No. Well, I wouldn't mind some now.
Kind of comes with the territory, though.
Yeah.
So you obviously had you're well used to then the long hours and stuff, as we'll come to when Mortgage Solutions. But then you joined Mortgage Solutions as an advisor in 2017.
2017. So I actually graduated in 2017 as well. So just coming near the end of the degree. That's when it came about joining Mortgage Solutions.
But was that as an employee or?
So there was another advisor in the estate agents, and basically he was Mortgage Solutions. So I had gone back into the estate agents and was working on the financial services side and learning from him, helping out with admin, helping applications, chasing, doing. Like in any organisation, you go on, you throw in at the deep end, and you might be doing admin, but you're doing a bit of everything really. So picked up loads there, but that was me basically as an admin in Mortgage Solutions effectively, because I would have had to sign up and be registered as admin for FCA regulations and all the rest of it. So although I would have been under the estate agents, it was deemed a member of Mortgage Solutions.
Very good, right? Okay. But so was that change, and so that was kind of building on the skills that you had previously from the estate agents, and that was always
being in contact with them and always having that relationship. They then obviously seen there was an opportunity for somebody to come along and help in the financial services and reached out, are you interested in coming back, sort of thing, and that's how it happened. So before I even finished my degree, I kind of knew that I wasn't going to be progressing on after it, but that's okay too, because nobody can take that away from me. I'll always have it, and I'm very proud of it.
Again, it's you always pick up things from within.
Even doing the law degree, there's property law, there's different bits and pieces on there, contract law, there's all things on there that are still relevant and still do help me a bit in what I'm doing. And it's the experience and the confidence and everything else that came along with it. And
it's the thing about managing the time as well. Like, university can be like a test of, right, can you actually self-manage your studying? Can you do this? Can you do that? And especially if you're working 2 jobs and had a daughter to look after, trying to make sure that everything was submitted on time and stuff is a big test on its own. But then, so once you studied, you decided that wasn't enough then, and
to be honest, so the law degree was grand, but probably about 2 years into it, I just thought, not that it wasn't interesting, because it was very interesting, it just wasn't for me. So it was a case of I wasn't going to go and spend another 2 years to become a solicitor or whatever it may have been, when I knew in my heart that I did not love it. So I nearly loved the HR side of it more. I had a wee tester in that as well, so I'd helped out a couple of girls that I knew, running a very successful business. So they had asked me to come basically and take notes at a couple of grievance hearings and stuff, and that was enough to say I didn't want to do that job. So I thought, that's definitely not for me. So sorry,
grievances can be tough though. But
grievances can be tough. So it was then that I'd gone back and obviously to the estate agents, and when the degree finished, I was in there as admin for the financial services side and doing bits and pieces, and then from there it developed from doing admin to being an advisor. So
But
I
you
had
had
to
to do
transition
exams
from
then?
that. I had to do exams for that as
So you
well.
just not long
I
finished your
just
degree?
finished the degree. So I was doing admin probably for about a year and a bit. And again, the something rises inside me where I want more and I want to do more because I feel that I'm capable of doing more, and I did at that time. And basically, you want to do more, you're going to have to be advising, because that's
way it
just the
goes.
way it goes, and you have to progress on. And I remember thinking, there is no way I'm going to be able to sit over there and advise, and then 6 months later, exams done, and I'm getting ready for my first appointment. And that is literally how it happened.
How nervous were you in your first?
Very.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did
and
you okay?
I did okay. I got the mortgage. And you know what? They didn't know they were my first client, and they've obviously since been back to remortgage, and I've now
very
told
good.
them that they were my first client because I did a good job. I had the experience from working alongside another advisor. And you've got support in this kind of job where, I don't just go out and give advice and cross my fingers and hope for the best that was the right advice. There's a lot goes on to ensure that you're given the right advice. So, with all that support, yes, I was nervous going in. My voice probably stuttered. I probably did all that, but they were nice people. And I feel that you always know more than them. Turn up and do your best. And I think that's as much as you can do.
100%. And no matter how nervous you feel, you have to remember that if you've studied,
you're
you've
the
qualified,
professional. You're the one that knows your stuff. And if you don't, and this is something that's taken me a bit of time to learn, it's okay to not know everything.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say, I'm sorry, I'll have to come back to you tomorrow about that.
But that only comes with
that does. Because at the start I thought I had to know absolutely everything on the spot. What if somebody asked me something and I don't know the answer? What? And that all comes with confidence. That comes after appointment. Now I have no problem in saying to somebody, I'm sorry, just give me 10 minutes and I'll check that out and I'll come back to you.
When you're first doing it, you feel like it's a personal feeling on you. Whatever.
You feel like there's no way I can let this person know I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
They will think that I know absolutely not.
Yeah.
And that's wrong.
And then, but you would prefer somebody kind of going, do you know what, I need to go and check that,
100%.
as opposed to giving you an answer that's maybe 60% right.
But try telling yourself that when you're sitting there on your first appointment.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it is, but that's it's another thing that's kind of like a rite of passage, is that you have to go through those bits, and you have to be nervous about. Because if you weren't nervous, you wouldn't prepare properly. You'd just be like,
thinking back now to one of the appointments in the earlier days, and it was a couple, and they'd brought their father, so it was the father-in-law was there. And that was nerve-wracking, because that was somebody who I felt, he was probably there to tell them because he felt that he knew a lot. And so again, that would not take a wrinkle out of me now. I would be like, bring the whole family.
Anybody can fire questions at
come.
me.
Yeah,
no problem. Everybody's welcome. But at this time, you're employed or you're self-employed?
I'm self-employed.
You're self-employed.
Fully self-employed. Point. So I was in the agents doing admin. Then I moved on to be advising. So I was still in there. I was still doing a bit of admin for the other advisor. So that was obviously employed, but in another element, I was self-employed. They would have been bringing on the clients, a lot of new developments, house sales. You turned up and the phones were ringing every day, and the advisor himself had a bank of clients that you were never going to be short of a client, basically.
Right.
All right.
So that's
there was no searching for clients.
Right. Okay.
You
so you didn't have to worry about that
work.
side of the business, really.
And at that time, I would have been out doing show houses, Michael. So I would have been meeting people myself, and then they would have been coming back. So there's new developments in the town. I might not have been advisor then, but I've helped people pick houses, get them on the right track. Even though I wasn't actually the advisor, because I've kind of been in and about on those days. So I went from admin to the advisor, and then I suppose COVID came along, and
so we'll come to that. So,
but that's where it changes to fully self-employed for me.
Yeah, but so this was in 2019. You qualified.
2019, I qualified.
And then, as you said, COVID came along then, and
so I'd done my exams. Probably just got over my first 6 months of appointments, got under the wave. It had my first few clients, and then COVID literally came along in March.
And did it? I take it shut everything down.
Well, it did. It shut down, and that the office was closed, and obviously we had to go and work from home. Lenders pulled from the market, so there were no mortgages. Land registry closed. Completions couldn't happen, but there were still things happening in the background, because Well, there just was. People were looking at their insurances. There was
Yeah,
still
okay,
things
yeah,
to be
yeah.
doing. So, we were working from home, then furlough, all the rest of it from that period from March to say June 2020. And then there was talk about going back to the office. And that's probably when I became a bit hesitant. And COVID
So it
did
changed your
change a lot.
perspective.
COVID changed a lot for everybody. I'd never been at home for a full week or a full month.
Yeah.
And,
Never had any free time.
do you know, well, I had a free time. But do you know what I mean? It was always you get up and you go to work and you come home. And
Yeah.
so I was starting to get, not COVID terrified me, to be honest. Whenever it hit, I was worried. I don't think I spoke to somebody who it hasn't impacted in some way or another. I watched the news every hour on the hour for whatever reason, I don't know. But anyway, so that changed things. Whenever I came back to the office then in June, I was a wee bit hesitant about it. Things had changed. And it wasn't something that I had thought about for a long time. It was probably a spur of the moment decision that I just thought, you know what, I can maybe do things myself, do things my own way, make my own decisions. And literally in a day or two, that decision was made.
And how hard was that?
Very hard. Very hard, because I loved what I did and I loved everything that was there. But something has to give.
Yeah.
So, anything worth having is always going to be tricky.
Yeah,
and if you had tried to tell me that at that week or that day, I didn't know what way I was what direction I was going, but I knew that I wanted to go and do my own thing. So that June 2020 was literally, I had...
Would you still heavy lockdown here?
We were still in lockdown. There was still not many lenders giving mortgages.
Okay.
Should we better throw this on me, Michael? You might.
You're starting to pick it up, yeah.
Do you know what? I knew I could do it, and I just thought, I'm going to do it. And that was the week that the decision was made. So I was working from home. I was doing mortgages, even though there weren't many mortgages happening. And I was going to my intentions were that I'll just put it out there and word of mouth and it will work. And I knew I could do it. But
So
trying
you were
to
even
convince...
visualising it at that point, that listen,
Yeah.
I know I can do it, and
Yeah.
takes a good lot of confidence to do that. 'Cause there's people would be quite hesitant.
And I don't even know that I had all the confidence at that point, but you get it.
Yeah.
When you need it, you get it. So that's how it happened, basically.
But like we said, like you've kids at this stage, you've responsibilities, you've.
So again, any decision that I've ever made, I've got good family support.
Uh-huh.
So I wouldn't have been able to make some of the decisions that I made without having good support. And I'm not saying that, I've got parents or sisters or a husband that just says, here you are, here's what you need. But I know that I will never be stuck, basically. So I knew that I could take some risks and that things would be okay. And that if they didn't work out, it would be okay, because I'd done things before that I didn't follow through with, and I was still okay. So I knew, and I've always been working. I've always been willing to work. I'm not saying I would do any job, but I will give anything a go. I'm never going to be somebody that's going to say I can't do or I won't do.
Yeah.
I'll try.
And see, like the work ethic quite clearly is there.
Yeah.
In terms of, like the commitment to something. If you want to do it, you're just like, right, I can do it, and it'll be a bit of work. But
and you're saying about not having free time, there are things that I miss out on, and I am missing out on at the minute. But again, that's my choice, and I'm happy to roll with it if this is what it needs, because I know what I can do.
Is that something you think people underestimate? Is that they think it's great
100%.
starting your own business and stuff like that, but they don't see the downsides of
100%. So some days I leave the office at 2:30 because I might have to pick Sarah up from school. And I will make a comment some days, oh, you away the day, or oh, you're so lucky, 2:30 on a Friday and you're away. 10:30 on a Friday night, I'm sitting at my kitchen table with a laptop open.
Yeah.
Do you know? And it's...
Would you, knowing that now, would you
Would I do it?
Would you still do it?
100%.
Even though the late hours, the thing, you still
Love it.
wouldn't change it?
Wouldn't change it. I say I wouldn't change it. I'm working on getting the work-life balance. I mean, it needs work. I'm working on it.
Right, yeah.
And again, you can only do this if you've got support. Do you know what I mean? I might not see my sisters or my friends for a couple of weeks, but they're still there, and we still, so you can't, you have to put on the work if you want something like this to
if
work.
they understand, at least it's that, where it'd be different if people were like kind of going, oh, you're working too much, we don't see you, whatever, and they were giving you kind of.
And I would say at the start, and I'm still very early into this, like there's still a lot
I'll come to
to
that,
grow and all the rest, but I feel that people don't realise actually what you're even doing. If that makes sense. As in, they don't realise how busy you are, how many hours you're working. They just think that...
You mean family?
Family and friends.
Yeah.
And it's...
There's sometimes people are saying, like, what do you do? What do you mean you're still working? Like, you have to. Like, I mean, I just can't... But how do you not get it done today? And you're like...
They're like, just leave that to tomorrow. And that is fine. I could leave it to tomorrow. But if I have a client that wants me to ring them today, I want to ring them today. Yeah. And it's about, again, learning curves. It's about setting expectations. At the start, I'll ring you back. Now I'll ring you back. I'll ring you back. Now I'm having to say, look, it could be tomorrow. Because I was telling 10 people I'll ring them back. And then I was going home and thinking, I can't go to my bed because I've got 10 people to ring. So it's learning all that. I do want to help everybody. I do want to ring everybody back today because I don't want them going somewhere else. And I want them to know that they're going to get a good service. But sometimes it's not physically possible. And it's trying to... Even clients, Michael, will ring you and ask you to do something, and then they ring you tomorrow and say, did you get that sorted? And you're like, well, it actually takes the bank 48 hours to even open that. So give me a couple of days. And... It's they don't know. It's just setting the expectations.
And as long as that's what kind of I would find as well, is that, like if you're honest up front, and funny Dawson, who Andrew said exactly the same thing. He was like, listen, if you're honest with your customer and you're kind of saying, I can't do that, but I can do this, or do you know what, it's going to be a couple of weeks until I can get you an answer. And again,
this is back to just set what it is that how you work and what you do. Sometimes clients will tell you how they want you to do it, but you have to just say, look, and again, it's that getting over reaching out and asking for help. It's just getting the confidence to be able to say, look, you might think that this will take me a day, but it's going to take me 3. Is that okay? Are you happy with that? And then we'll work. But
and like it's not going to be literally this is why, and if they understand,
and the people who are genuine and need your help will wait 2 or 3 days. There's no issues with that. So
and but again, you're saying you're going back to the first meeting or whatever, you might not have had the confidence. You're just going, no, that's fine, I'll get it done.
I did their decision and principle and all while they were sitting there. I was that nervous. I was like, I'm not letting you out till I get this mortgage. So
and then you just learn your ways of doing it, but it does take time and confidence, like you say. But how tough for the first few months after you'd kind of made the decision?
Very tough, because I made the decision and on the basis that I would work from home, because I thought that was great in March and April and May. And then when reality came and you're sitting in a back bedroom with a printer that doesn't work, that needs ink every day, all the things that you think you've got together, and then suddenly you're like, right, not so sure. Did
you miss the interaction?
So in those early days I didn't, because I was so focused on where am I getting clients, how am I getting this, how am I doing that. So I didn't have time to worry about friends or cups of tea or who I'm chatting to. That was okay. But I quickly realised that I really did need an office. So while I was working from home, I had a virtual office, which was grand, but you speak to somebody and you need a bank statement, where will I leave it? And then you're trying to explain where a virtual office is, and so it just wasn't professional. I needed a base. So this all happened in June. July, I got an office. So again, I was like, I'm getting an office.
This is July 2020?
2020, like 6 weeks later. And like, I didn't have a load of money to be going and getting an office, Michael. I just left a job. I was self-employed with no income. But again, this is where it all started, that I had to start taking risks. I had to get the money to get an office, pay the first month's rent and see how it goes. And that was probably the best move, was getting an office space, because then you have a base, you can advertise where to find me, all the rest of it. And it worked. It just felt good to be going to an office and to be set up with a proper desk and
structure
chair and And then the things start, well, I need headed paper, I need all these things that you need to start running a business, and you can't order 5 sheets of headed paper, you have to order 1,000. So, do you know, like, and then you need stamps to send out the headed paper. So, all those things came. So, the first couple of months were very tough, lonely, a lot of sitting thinking, what will I do with this? Who will I phone about this? You know, trying to figure everything out myself, basically. So but once you get into it, and once it starts building and things start happening, it starts to become very exciting.
But, you know, there must be some days where it's like the most rewarding job in the world.
Probably I get a... Go
and
ahead.
Then there are others where things just seem to constantly go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me just a few on the highs and the lows? So I'm assuming the highs would be the...
Like, there's highs and lows probably every single day. It's just how high or how low are we talking? So highs, I could talk all day about happy stories of people who I have helped and the messages that they've sent. Like, I've been actually I have been reduced to tears days by reading somebody's message of thanks and how grateful they are. I've had somebody recently that I've been dealing with for a full 2 years, and they just got a mortgage offer last week. Like, if I could show you the message that the wife sent me on Instagram, that literally they have been working towards this. But these are people who came to me 2 years ago. There was something there we needed to sort out. They took my advice, and we've stayed in touch for 2 years, and we've got this issue sorted, and they now are moving house. Like, that story to me is like, these people they just think I'm great. They do. But they're the ones who reached out, asked for help. Yes, there was an issue. That's okay. You know, there's very little people come in and there's no issues. So those stories, I love people who, it's nearly like in a football match or whatever, it's like the underdog. I nearly love helping the underdog as much as I love helping the people that rock up and have everything together. I don't mind a challenge or whatever. The lows, they're not anything usually that is within my control. So that's how I take things probably too personal sometimes. And this is something that I'm having to learn to deal with, that when something goes wrong, I'm having a meltdown, basically. But I know that I've done everything that I can possibly do. But I'm going home at night and I'm maybe having 3 sleepless nights on something that I can't fix. But it's because I really, really want to help that client. It's not, you know, and yes, everybody has problems in their work. There's issues in every type of job. And everybody thinks their problems are the worst. But all I can think about is, this is somebody's home. This is where they see themselves living. I haven't had any disasters, and hopefully I won't. But I've had some very close ones where, for example, I have somebody who signed a contract, hadn't told their solicitor that they needed a mortgage, actually told their solicitor they didn't need a mortgage, and their solicitor allowed them, they signed a contract, and I didn't have a mortgage offer. And I was...
So they're liable for the purchase?
Mm-hmm. They would have been. They had actually moved out of their home and were living with family.
Right.
So I had 3 days where I'm like, if this mortgage offer doesn't come through, where are they going? What are they doing? What? And at that point, now this worked out. I got the mortgage offer and it was fine.
Oh my God.
But the sweating...
Do they know how lucky they are?
Yeah.
Jeez, that's...
And again, the gratitude and how grateful those people are is what makes it all worthwhile. But that's why I had 3 sleepless nights, because I genuinely want... Do you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, it's only give me the next one. Every single case means everything to me, and they're all treated equally the same, and I do take it personal, and I think in some ways that makes me very passionate about it, and that I won't give up on something, and if there's a way, I will find it. But on the other side, sometimes I need to just
but that must be tough to kind of go, do you know what, there's, you know, I have to just let that, because there's nothing I can do about that. I've literally
I've done
tried out
everything.
every avenue, and
Yeah.
that, I suppose, that the only way that you'll ever be able to do it is that you can kind of go, listen, I know there's nothing else
Yeah.
I can do.
And that's what I think that I'm good at, and that I'm upfront with people. I'm honest, and I think that that's the only way that you can be success or do
Yeah.
the right thing, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because as long as I'm honest with a client and I tell them this is what's happening, then that's all I can do. Now, you do
Yeah.
get people that you'll tell them to do one thing, they'll go and do the other.
Yeah.
And I get those ones I can't help. But, as long as I'm right, giving the best advice that I feel is right and being honest, I think that's
But
the
it like
best.
it must be very difficult. If somebody's in particular the situation that you talked about, where you kind of know, geez, if this doesn't come through, that's a real problem. And that you're
And
taking that
there
on
are
personally. Kinda.
there are other lows, not necessarily my problems yet, but we have people who are coming to us worried about their mortgage. So I am dealing, yes, with the nice first time buyers and the home movers that are so excited to be moving house, but I'm also dealing with clients who are maybe divorces.
Yeah.
One doesn't have enough money to buy another house. It's not all smiles and great news and if we were to post absolutely everything, there's such a range of what you're dealing a lot of people who are paying mortgages, maybe interest only mortgages, haven't been aware that they're interest only. Now they're hitting 50 and 60 years of age and they're still sitting with a mortgage, and they're like, can you help me? We can help some, but there are some that it's going to be a problem. And those are hard conversations. They're hard for me because I care.
Yeah.
And I want to help them.
And there's other people who probably don't, they're like that's
maybe other people think that was my problem to begin with, not interested, and that's okay too, if that's fine. But for me, I feel it, I do take a lot of it on.
But I think then in one sense, that's probably the reason, the customer service side and the fact that you do care is probably leading to the reason why it has been so successful for you. And
100%.
That,
and it's word of mouth, Michael. So it's a lot of it is word. Well, a lot of it is word of mouth.
But that, like, you could spend an absolute fortune in marketing and never get that word of mouth that actually helps. Whereas if somebody kind of says, do you know what? I went to Claire Feeney and I couldn't recommend her enough.
Yeah.
You couldn't pay for that level of advertising.
No. You know yourself, you want something, the first thing you do is ask in your friends' WhatsApp group or your family,
anybody
I need, do you know anybody?
Yeah.
So it's
the way it
especially
works.
in Derry.
Oh, definitely. But I wanted to run through a quick timeline of events, because you did mention there that it's it's not all that long.
No.
So as you said, you qualified in 2019 and you opened up your own branch then in 2020. You did go for it then in September 2020, which I'll come to in a bit. Your first Instagram post was 18th of January 2021. The 12th of August 21, you had 340,000 on one of the reels.
Okay.
Right? So that's 8 months later. 8th of December 21, 495,000. The 31st of December, you got married. And you had 5,000 followers that day.
On your I did.
And then on the 16th of January 21, 10,000. You brought an additional member of staff on the 8th of March. The 11th of October, you held the event in Braun, which I was at, which was very successful. I think this is the most amount of people I've ever seen in a room for some an event like that. Nominated for the Local Business Awards in 2021 there last week.
22,
yeah. 22, sorry, yeah. 22. You moved into your own offices, like you said, and then there's been a whole number of mortgage applications and insurances in between. But that's basically 2 years.
When you put it like that, I should go back and look at that timeline myself.
Is it a bit surreal?
Aye.
Is it?
Yeah.
And
when I say that I'm in the office where I am, so I went into that office. I've also moved twice since I went in there. So I've done a small office, moved up, and then now I'm in, obviously, because Anna's there. It is a bit surreal listening to that, because it's just been all go. But I love it. Like I just love it.
Like clearly do. But like, say for instance the time, obviously we were saying it's a tough decision in June 2020.
Yeah.
Did you ever think it would be like this, or did you what way did you see it?
So in June 2020, it was tough. It was a tough couple of months, Michael. I probably wasn't the nicest person to be around in those couple of months, because it was just tough.
Yeah.
You kind of lose yourself a wee bit because you're trying, you know what you want to do, but can you do it? And you get up some days and you're filled with a fire and you're like, I can do this today. And then you get a few comments, you hear a few things, and then you get up the next day and you're like, can I do this? And then you start doubting yourself. So for a couple of months from June 2020, it wasn't plain, it wasn't all happy faces every day.
Yeah.
So it was a tough couple of months. I did do a bit of work on myself in later 2020. I suppose just to get rid of things that were holding me back. For example, other people's opinions, all the things that hold us back. So I would say from June to probably September, October was tough. And then I started to get the confidence. And then October, November, December 2020, I had to make it work. I had to make it work.
Choice.
I just thought, I'm doing this because I've got so much experience. I love it. I'm passionate about it. I know I can do it. I'm relatable. I knew plenty of people within the industry. There was no way I was walking away from all that. So I just thought, I'm doing this. And it was probably October, November 2020 when I started to get the confidence then.
Yeah.
So it took a wee while. And you get that confidence by your first client on your own, your first insurance, your first completion, the first time somebody says something to you about, and you're out on your own and you're doing well, all those things then start to happen. So then you get the buzz and you start to think, right, I can do this. So you're saying there about the start of January 2021 was the first Instagram post. So I remember thinking I would have been putting a wee bit out on Facebook. Not a lot, because I was never a big social media person, believe it or not. But
that's changed.
I was putting out a wee bit on Facebook, like, are you a first time buyer? You're all this. And then things were moving to Instagram. It's like, right, I should probably make an Instagram. So then you have to check basically with the regulations. Can you do an Instagram? Are you allowed to advertise all these things? So I went and asked about that. And I was told, yes, you can do it. So I'd done it. And I remember putting a post on my own Instagram saying my new page. And I remember the comments even just about that being, go you, well done, no better girl, all these things. And then you start to get that buzz.
Yeah.
It's like once you get over posting it and then you get the feedback, you're like, I like this.
How nervous were you posting it?
Very nervous. Very nervous. And that was only a post.
Yeah.
That was literally a picture of Mortgage Solutions and probably me saying, here's my new page, please give me a follow. But you still be nervous.
I think somebody said before it's the judgment side of it, which I thought I'd never really realised before, but it's
could probably spend the rest of the day talking about the judgment side of it. I feel that that's the sort of things you have to get over.
And that's it hopefully it's improving, but particularly there at one stage was really, really bad for that, where it just would be like, oh, look, who do they think they are? What is it? All that sort of stuff.
Still
and talking
happens,
negatively.
and that still happens even. Well, I would say I hear that every day. Like you will always get somebody who will be ready to talk about something or will be ready to say whatever. It's just, and when I say I did a bit of work myself in 2020, these are the sort of things that you learn. Do you know what I mean? Just let's support people. Let's build each other up. We don't need to be here to drag somebody down at the first mistake we make. And we're all hopefully we don't make big mistakes, but we're all, nobody's perfect, all the rest of it. But so it's getting over that judgment. Every time you put a post up, every time I put a post up, I'm thinking, what will they? Well, I don't anymore. But those are the sort of things that did hold me back. But once you just do it and then you get the feedback, you're like, this is amazing. Keep rolling with it, and then you have 493 views, and you're like, how you only have 10,000 followers? How can I actually? Well, at that point, I didn't even have 10,000. I probably only had 5, not even 5. So then you think, well, geez, this is worth it. It has to be worth it.
And those are the good days.
Those are the good days.
Right.
And those days do every day. I would say there's something every day that I do a happy dance for. Whether it's a mortgage approved, a mortgage offer, somebody moving, but. There's plenty of happy dances be done.
But that's, but people don't understand that. I think people, underestimate potentially those first couple of months, how difficult it can be to put yourself out there, to know that, you know, it has to go. And then, as you say, you know, can I do this? The questioning yourself
Yeah.
of
And then even what you put up, you question what you put up. But, you know, if somebody doesn't agree with it, but if it's your opinion, that's okay. You're allowed to have an opinion. It doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as you genuinely believe that and you're being honest, then...
And you'll get people criticising
everything.
Could be the most correct thing in the world, and they'll still go have something to say about it. And you're like, oh, listen, come on.
And it's getting over all that. And it's okay if something isn't. I do like things to be perfect, but if something isn't 100% perfect, it's still okay. Do you know, like...
But that's what I mean, is you could spend, you know, all day trying to make something, you know, and it is correct, and it's 100, you know, and you know yourself that it's right, but somebody will still go, but, you know,
she should have done this, or she should have said, or I wouldn't have said that, or I would have done it this way, all those sorts of things.
But you must get the comments as well that, you know, like, we get it particularly all the time. It's like, no, but this guy told me that it's like that, and you're like, was that a guy in the bar? Like, have you been...
The worst is my daddy said, and these daddies bought houses 35 years ago when things were so different. We do get a lot of people, not a lot, but we get first time buyers who come in, they don't know anything, so you tell them what they need to be doing, the reasons why they need a broker, all the rest of it. Then you don't hear from them for 3 months, and then they'll come back and say, no, we tried to do it ourselves, but this didn't work. And I'm like, you've just wasted 3 months, because I could have told you on day one your employment wasn't going to work with this lender. So
yeah,
that's grand.
Yeah.
And I'll still be there to help them, Michael. That's what I want them to come back to me.
Yeah.
I am happy with that. And like, that's happened recently where somebody, and they spoke to us and they were more than happy, but they think that they're going to, I don't know, save a couple of pound, I don't know, went somewhere else, and it didn't work. Basically, the bank rang him to say, no, we're not doing this. He then panicked because the estate agent and the builder was putting him under pressure to sign a contract, and he couldn't because he had no mortgage offer. He came to us. This was before the event, actually, because I think I spoke about this the night of the event. Contacted Anna done this one, contacted Anna on a Friday morning. We had a mortgage offer on the Wednesday. So for 3 days, it took us to get the valuer out and a mortgage approved in the offer. He spent 3 months fighting and sweating with another lender. He was never getting that with the other lender because they wouldn't accept his income.
But that's
so it was a complete like there was no point.
But that's, you know, where you know, people think that they know better, and you're kind of looking at it going, I know the criteria that lender has, and that's not going to work. And they just kind of sit there and go, no, I'll try it.
And sometimes I have to. Some days I just wish them the best of luck and say, that's grand. You know where I am if you need you, because I can't do. I'm not going to beg or, you know, really beg somebody to come and use me, because there's always more work coming in.
100%. And that's like, you know, in certain times you can't, because if you do that and then, you know, like it's not a good idea. Like we had one who, you know, did exactly that, and we're like, no, we've got a better price elsewhere. And I was like, listen, that's fine, go ahead, go away and do it. And it was the 22nd of December, rang up, can you help us? This is going completely wrong. And I was like, hey, come on, this is Christmas week. What, you know? And we did step on it, and we did it, but it was that thing of no, well, I'll just go over here because I'm going to save a couple of quid,
and then they'll be back.
Yeah. And it is now. And there's a certain party you kind of go, well,
again, it's all with experience and confidence, because I would have been so upset about somebody going somewhere else or maybe going to the bank themselves. Now, I know that I can do a good job, so that's okay. Work away, and I'll probably see you in a month or two whenever you need to come back, which is fine. But again, it's learning and the experience and having the confidence.
But there's times as well where you know, somebody leaves the office and you go, they'll be back, and you know full well you're like, that's okay, go ahead and do it, and then they're back and you're like, oh,
how are you doing?
But as you say, it's the experience, as I said that. But obviously we've touched on it a bit, but you went to the Go For It program, and you went through Enterprise Northwest here locally. How did you find that?
Great. So my office is in Enterprise Northwest, which was very handy. So I had literally gone down to see about an office, and then when I got an office, I started to find out about all the goings on in there, and I done the Go For It program. It was good, I suppose, because I probably still wouldn't have a business plan if I hadn't sat down in the Go For It program. So there were things that, you know, it was very good to do it, and I suppose I was thinking about that this week, and if I hadn't have done it, so the things that I wrote in the business plan, I have exceeded. And if I hadn't have done that business plan, I would still be sailing along
Yeah.
thinking, oh, this is great. But now, because I remember doing the plan and thinking, this is what I can do, and working it out. And then again, the doubt sets in, can I really do that? And now that I've done it, I'm like, that was good to do that,
Yeah.
because
Just committing it to
this is,
yeah.
yeah. And I suppose just so that I can see, because I would literally just be looking back and thinking, I should have set a wee plan, or I should have put a target of what I want to do, or how many mortgages it's going to be, or how it's going to work. So no, it was definitely good.
It seems that, like, and I keep saying it, like, I can't get over what they do for you know, for people. It is such a great thing, and it does prevent kind of a lot of mistakes, you know, that people would generally make. And you say you would have been fine, you probably would have been sailing along, but would you have achieved the same things you know?
I wouldn't know because I wouldn't have set any plans, or I wouldn't have said any.
It's good because they make you look at the whole thing and go, right, how are you doing this, how are you doing that? And Rachel from Enterprise Northwest said as well, is that, you know, people think that they're coming in for this thing of, oh, you've got a great idea, oh, brilliant, whereas it's kind of like, right, what about this, what about that, what about that, have you thought about this? And it's just making sure that you've all bases covered. So I think from that point of view, it's really useful. And obviously, you know, would you have put as much into the marketing side, into the mortgage side, into the office side? Would you have thought about employee, you know, certain stuff like that?
And even still, I suppose, where with being down there, you see a lot going on. So it's even a good place to be located, I feel, some days, because you see other businesses, you get to speak to other business people standing making a cup of tea. So although I'm self-employed, and Anna's there now too, but although I'm self-employed, that's why at the very start, why I liked there, because there was other people about. You had a bit of reception support. You had, you know, so days if I'm not there, I still have reception. There's still posts coming and going. There's still people can leave on documents. So even more than just the actual Go For It program, the overall support, I suppose, was really good back then.
And then, like, other business owners probably good to speak to, in the sense that they know.
Although every time you go into the kitchen, oh, what about the interest rates today? But I
have to ring a client here, I can't talk to.
Busy the day. No, but and those people are all the people that are they're supporting you as well, you know, and they might be all our businesses, nothing to do with mortgages, but they're still rooting for you. And I've got business from some of those people because everybody needs a mortgage, everybody has a home, so it doesn't matter what line of work they're on. It's networking with anybody, whether it's in the kitchen having a cup of tea or.
And you never know where business is going to come from. It could be a conversation over a cup of tea, and they're like, oh, actually, such and such, I know, needs a mortgage, and that's, you know, it is really good from that point of view. I didn't actually appreciate how much of a value networking is, and those kind of just the conversations. But just on that, so you had kind of mentorship through Enterprise Northwest. Was there anybody else that you kind of leaned on for kind of support or guidance or anything like that?
So I had other people who were doing a bit of personal development at the time. We supported each other. In terms of other support, and this is like, you would have asked people for advice or their opinion, and then I might not have got the answer that I really wanted. So I was always a bit, not nervous about asking for other people's advice or opinions, but cautious, because I believed in myself. I don't know that and it doesn't matter what other people thought, but I knew I could do it. And I had heard comments at the time about when I had gone out self-employed, where you're going to get the clients, maybe it's a bit soon, these things. So I didn't want to ask for people's opinion, because I didn't think it was doing me that much good at the time. Now then, there's other people who were my biggest fan and were like, you're going to smash this and you're flying, and, you know, but so I was very careful about who I spoke to and what I told, and not everybody gets it. Not everybody gets it.
But it can be difficult to kind of hear some of the negative stuff, and you know, it is really tough. and I don't think people understand that side
Again,
of it
I
either.
probably took some comments too personally at the time. So then to come back from that and actually turn up and go on Instagram and say, here I am, and this is... So, it's trying to balance that out.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yes, I did ask for help, and I've got better. Not even asking for help or advice now, but in anything, I've got better at lifting the
Yeah.
phone and saying, what do you think about this? Can you help me? Do
But
and I've got better at taking the no's, and I've got better at, so...
But it's the best, I suppose the best way to deal with the negativity is like, well, what do you think now?
I don't know. Well,
But so if you had to give one piece of advice to somebody starting out on their business journey, what would it be?
well, if you believe in yourself, go for it. If you know you can do it, it doesn't matter what somebody else says or thinks. So if you believe in yourself, go for it. Be persistent. It's not going to happen overnight.
Well, that's definitely
because it definitely doesn't happen overnight, and you have to be prepared to put in the struggles at the start. Basically, you're not going to be rocking up and getting brilliant wages in your first 6 months, is what I would say. And yeah,
just put in the work. But give yourself time to get there.
Definitely. And every job is different, but definitely in this, you're not turning up today and you're going to be coming out with your big wages at the end of the month. Some houses can take months and months and months. You might get one that'll happen in 3 weeks. You might get things that will... Do you know what I mean? But this is not something where you go to work today and then you take home your wages at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You might be working on a case for the next 4 months and you're not getting paid for it for another 4 months. So it's, again, expectations. But if you know what you're capable of, then
go for it.
Go for it.
It is very good advice, in fairness. But in the expertise and the experience that you have, particularly in the mortgage market, I have to ask you, unfortunately. It would be remiss of me not to have you here and ask you. What would be your advice to people who are looking for a mortgage in the next couple of years? I'll not use now as an example because...
Well, my advice is what it has always been. Save, be realistic, speak to a broker. Is number one, is speak to a mortgage broker as soon as you decide that you might want to buy a house, because they will tell you all the things that you need to be doing within the next year or even 2 years. For example, somebody might rock up self-employed 2 months to be told that they need 2 years. So the minute you're thinking about it, speak to somebody.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are options out there. Like, I know at the minute people are scared, but there are still mortgages there. There are 95% mortgages. There are co-ownership. There are loads of options still there.
Yep.
I suppose people have been scared recently with the news and everything else, but speak to a broker and they will keep you right, is the first thing to be doing.
Like things like this come and go. Like you're saying, you've been through the recession. You were there at the 2008
like people are
one.
saying, prices are going to drop. People are always hoping the prices are going to drop. All the people who haven't bought a house yet, the people who have a house don't want the prices to drop. You're always going to get those comments. I don't feel that the prices here in Northern Ireland have even got back to where we were.
Yeah.
In the boom before the crash in 2007, 2008. So the prices aren't even there to be crashed. I feel that if you need to buy a house, then you need to work towards the goal, and there's never a right time or a wrong time to buy a house. If you need to buy a house, you need to deal with the figures and the options that you have and buy what you can afford.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line.
And that's trying to call the market in terms of that. People were saying, and 2008 it was crashing, but it took 2 years nearly before it
people have been saying
dropped.
it now. Well, again, when I went self-employed in 2020, people were like, there's going to be a property crash, what are you doing? And my argument there was people are still going to need mortgages. So one of the other girls in another mortgage solutions branch in Belfast, she started hers in the middle of the crash. So, we laugh. I say, Claire, if you can do it in the crash, I can do it in COVID. You're still here and thriving well. So, yeah.
Now, as you say, it's a
people
necessity.
are always going to have challenges in any job, and things are going to happen. If I had a crystal ball at the minute, it would be great and my job would be a lot easier, but you can only, advise what you feel is best. Give the figures, and these are your options, and there are always options for people.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's What would you think gives them the best chance of success? What would your advice be on that in terms of making giving yourself the best chance of success?
Do you mean for the mortgage application or for business? For a mortgage application?
Mortgage application, sorry.
Mortgage application. The one thing people can be doing, whether you're buying a house next year, the year after, in 3 years' time, your credit report. People do not know what's on their credit report. They don't check them. They don't know about it. It's not that they're avoiding it or not doing it. They don't know about it. So we have people come to get a mortgage and maybe there's something on their credit report where they have the same name as their father, and their father missed payments 3 years ago, but it's registered on the son's report. They come and get a mortgage. This is going to take a couple of months to sort it out. So everybody should be aware of what is on their own individual credit report. You can sign up to check my file for free and check it out and literally make sure that what's registered against your name is correct. And there are people who have maybe like old mobile phone bills, 80 quids that they didn't pay, that they think, oh, sure, that'll be grand, it was only £80. Those can cause a problem when it comes to getting a mortgage. So don't think that it will go away and it'll be okay. Look at your credit report and find out. And if there's something on there that you don't agree with, well, then dispute it or come and speak to us and we will help you sort it out or find a way around it. And the thing is, if there's a problem, we can get a reason for it and we can explain to the lender. But if we don't know these things, or the person themselves doesn't even know, then that's going to cause an issue. So I would say being on top of your credit report, and it's something that I would actually love to try, and this is the whole point of the Instagram, is get out to people when they're 18 and 19 and 20, because you come out of school, you go to university, you go up the town, or now you go online, and you're offered credit. You're offered, you go into a shop to buy something. It happened to me myself. You go into a shop to buy something when you're 18 or 19, and they say, if you take this card, you don't have to pay anything today. It'll be X amount of pound a month. Somebody does that and they don't pay that bill. Well, then 5 years down the line, you go for a mortgage. That wee credit agreement that you didn't follow through is going to be there and it's going to cause an issue. People don't know, Michael, that that's going to be an issue if they come to buy a house in 5 years.
Yeah.
Do you know? So
it's something schools actually should be doing a bit more.
Yeah, and the same with mobile phone contracts. You know, it's great to get a mobile phone contract and it's great that it's only £20 a month, but the first month that you don't pay that, and then the second month and the third month, that's then on your credit record for 6 years. Do you know? So it's just trying to be aware of the sort of things that, you know, because I didn't know. I didn't know when I was 18 or 19 that a phone contract, that this is now on. I mean, maybe I should have known, but who nobody's there to teach you or tell you these things.
But now, like, it's so easy. Like, it was very easy.
Probably easier
but it's
now.
easier. But like Klarna, like people don't understand what that is.
We talk, myself and Anna talk about this in the office all the time too. So what we feel is somebody goes on and they want to buy something and they can't afford it, so they break it down into 3 payments. But if you can't afford to be back, do you really need it? And I'm not there to tell people what they need or what how they should be spending their money. But when you come to get a mortgage, and do you know, if it's 3 and paying 3, those sorts of things aren't going to look great to a lender when you're looking for a mortgage, because and people aren't, you know, as they say, it is about the education of things, particularly the kind of 18 to 25 probably. And it is just a lack of knowledge, really. And again, if I wasn't on this job, I wouldn't know all this. It's just getting it out there, and that's what I am trying to do with the whole Instagram and TikToks. It's just trying to give out those wee tips or the wee things that will help people, so that whenever it comes to the time that they're a lot more prepared.
No, definitely, it is, and it's such a big issue. I can't, you know, I don't know where the Klarna thing's going to end, but I don't think it's going to be a good one. What's one question you get constantly asked?
How much can I afford? How much can I buy?
Really?
How much can I borrow?
Really?
What can I get? That's all, literally. How much can I get?
Yeah.
What? And then they think that you're just going to be able to make it up in your head. But people just want to know how much they can afford. What can I spend?
Jeez, right, okay. I wasn't expecting that as an answer. I thought it would have been like, you know, sort of what I need for an application or what's the interest rate's going to do or something like that.
No, they don't. This is the thing, Michael. People don't worry about This is where, so somebody will ring up and they want to know how much they can buy at. Basically, can I buy a house at 150, 200, 250? And I will say, okay, so based on your income, you may be able to borrow 200,000. But if this is going to cost you £1,200 a month, how do you feel about that? Do you know what I mean? So they might want the 200,000, but they only want to pay £600 a month. So it's trying, the first question is, how much can they get? And they do want, that's what they want to know. But they don't realise then, well, you may get this, but do you really want a monthly payment of this amount? So it's not always a straight.
It should be what can you pay?
What can you pay a month? What's your monthly budget? And I'll tell you what you can afford. And that's where it comes under a fact finding, sitting down and go through it with a client. That again, I have people who earn huge wages, could borrow 400,000, but do you really want or need a mortgage at 400,000? So it's trying to find the balance and what's right for them.
It is the mortgage approval versus what your incomes are. Really, if you're mortgaging yourself out, it's really you can see some of it and you're going, right, professional, the serious questions out of the way, so a few fun ones now to finish off. So summer or winter?
Winter.
Really? You're the first person to have said that. Really? My wife loves winter too. I don't understand. Really? Why?
Because it's okay to go home and close the door and light the fire, and you don't have to feel like you've done a 2-hour walk, ran a mile. It's like I'm allowed to sit at the kitchen table on my laptop in the winter. In the summer, people are wanting to. I like summer too, because, well, obviously I love days out and all the rest of it, but I do love winter. Love Christmas. Love that whole end of year and the new year. I do love winter. Love getting the fire lit and.
There you go. Well, this one might lead me that way then. So, gym, book, or film?
Would have been gym up until
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Now it's probably book.
Oh, really?
The odd time when I make time.
Do you make enough time? No. I can't. I just get tired when I read. I think it's because you have to do so much reading and work. I'm like, no.
You get fed up.
Job.
Now, when I say read, I prefer easy reading. I'm not going to go on and read anything.
Like a murder mystery thing? No.
Definitely not.
Yeah, no,
I don't really get people who watch horror movies, all these things, because I just I would annoy myself about them.
I can't understand why you would sit there and scare yourself straight for 90 minutes or whatever it is. And some people seem to love it.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Favourite restaurant currently?
Be here all day. No. Favourite restaurant at the minute? Spoiled, like.
Quite a few.
Do you like Mekong?
Oh,
I'm a fan of the Bishopsgate Hotel for food, to be honest. I think they always do a good job.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. No, we're getting good with options now, which is great.
New
to
ones
see.
popping up there in the Strand Road.
Next trip.
We're talking about skiing in February, but I'm not sure if that'll happen.
Where?
We were in Poland skiing actually in February 2020, pre-COVID, and I didn't love the skiing, but I loved the trip.
Skiing's if we've got a very good like after party kind of the drinks
and
afterwards.
And the food and the fact Sarah was involved and she really loved it. I'm afraid of heights and I'm afraid of speed. So that part of it, I wasn't like, I was probably on the nursery slope for most of the week, but that's okay.
But it is good crack though.
So it is good crack. So we've no nothing booked at the minute, but talking about that.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. Favorite film of all time?
I'm not a big film person.
No.
Favorite film? I'm going back to childhood days.
Mermaid.
Like I'm back to Sound of Music, Mary Poppins. That do you know when they were on tape, recorded? Do not tape over.
Yeah, I don't know. Jeez, that's. Where's that, buddy? Favorite local business or local business person at the moment?
Do you have to say toast?
No.
Michael, that's a really tough one.
See, everybody struggles with that one because you're kind of like picking. That's why it's there. And again, it's good because there's quite a lot recently.
like any local business, any business.
Any business, whatever you want.
You see, there's probably a range of people who like I follow and I try and support. For example, all the lovely coffee shops that we've now got. Totally loving that vibe and thinking that we've got loads of market for it. And I feel that they all support each other, and that's nice to see as well.
Yes,
so,
yeah.
for example, Braun, Hang Ten, Nine Hostage, you know, I feel that they're real showing that it's good to support each other.
Yeah.
You know,
No, that
and
is,
we
it
can
is,
go
in
into each
fairness.
other's businesses and, you know, interact with each other and have conversations, and we're all friends here. So
Well-
I've noticed that about them, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that. And I feel that businesses are getting better at supporting. I do feel we're getting better at supporting each other. And whether it is the social media with the tags or the comments or whatever, but I do feel that there's a good business community at the minute.
It's
and
definitely becoming a much more, you know, people are kind of thinking about it a bit more, and that why are we sending this away? Like we could buy this here. Why are we not
and
buying
let's
it
start
here?
helping each other instead of being out to
Yeah.
hammer each other. You know, it's a lot easier and nicer when we all work together. Like,
Oh,
and
definitely.
even when I done that event, I reached out to people like yourself, even for you and Nick O'Dowd and those people to take the time on a Tuesday night and come. I really felt that I had got a lot of support that night. Like, that's what really made it for me, was that all our businesses were prepared to take 2 hours out of their night and come out on a Tuesday night and turn up for me. So those things, you know, if there was more of that, I think that we can all benefit from it.
It really is, like, because it that's what I'm saying. I kind of misunderstood or didn't understand how valuable the networking side it is, and it's even just small conversations. You kind of pick up wee bits and pieces here, and it's always nice to hear what other businesses are doing, and you know, it's really nice.
Like, the feedback that I got from that event was,
I bet it was brilliant though.
well, you see, this is the thing, and it was brilliant, and I'm very, very proud of it. But when you do something for the first time, like, all I could think about was, I hope that was okay. I hope I said enough. I hope I give enough. I hope. But the feedback was like, that was amazing, and I was like, really? So, you know, it's again pushing yourself out there, and then you get the feedback. But that wouldn't have worked without the guy in Braun being as good and as decent as he would. Like, he opened up a business and give me the free rein to come in and do what I want. The guy in there who does the DJ and set up the microphone. So that took a whole lot of work and a whole lot of supporting people that day as well. But that's what I like about things.
And as you say, it is getting better, or you know, people are being a bit more conscious of
Yeah.
it, so which is good to see.
Yeah.
Hopefully an easier one. You won the lottery. What are you going to buy next?
Anything.
Anything you want.
Buy a holiday home in Donegal.
Would you?
Well, we do. So my in-laws, actually, they have a holiday home, like a shared holiday home. And the dream is probably to have something very nice somewhere in Donegal, very quiet,
Overlooks the water or
Uh-huh.
something like that.
right up in Hornhead or somewhere. Like.
Very good. If you could have dinner with one celebrity, dead or alive, who would it be? See, people don't like this one because they're like, oh, it has to be somebody good.
It has to be somebody good. That is a tricky one.
Okay.
One celebrity.
Just be somebody you want. I suppose they don't necessarily have to be a celebrity. Could be anybody.
Could be anybody.
Should actually change that.
Struggling, Michael.
You can skip it if you want.
I'll skip it.
Skip
Come
it? You
back to you.
can let me know that one.
Like, there are plenty of people who would like to meet and speak to and hear their story, but I don't necessarily like follow somebody and, you know, dream to meet them someday, or like, for example, Michelle Obama. Like, do you know, if she was inviting me for dinner, I'd be there. Just because I think she's amazing. But in terms of, like, I don't really follow anybody that
Just take bits and pieces from a whole lot of
bits and
different-
pieces from everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, Claire, thank you very much for that. It's been an absolute pleasure. So
Thank
I'm
you.
glad to have you here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Cheers.